I just want to make this very clear at the start of this video. I am recording this live on Twitch, and there are 200 people watching me and judging me. I'm going to sort of hang up on all of the mistakes that I make when talking. So if you were at that live stream, then do comment in this video. But we are going to go over the live stream. There's quite a lot of information in there. I will definitely recommend watching the stream as a whole. But this is just a nice little quick way for you to be updated on the kind of fixes going in, the kind of stuff that isn't going in, that kind of stuff. This is going to be a patch that will happen sometime next week. They've put a date down as March the 12th, but that's subject to change as it always is. Patch notes should go live with this change. We might get them earlier, but they basically said that it'll go out around the same time. I'm going to be doing this in terms of my own notes, so kind of in chronological order, I suppose it would be, as time went on. The first change that they highlighted, not a big one, is that you can start your expedition screen straight off the bat. You know when you're in a group and you could go hold R, whatever it is, to get into the expedition screen, you can do that on your own. So as soon as you log in, hold R, you're at the expedition screen. You don't need to run up past Owen, or, well, not Owen anymore, but spoilers, great. One thing that got a lot of people quite annoyed in Twitch chat is that they didn't address the CPU stuff. Of course, Anthem performs really poorly on console and on PC with how much CPU usage it requires. They did address an interesting figure around the level 1 defender, which we'll get onto later on in the video, but they also did address the PS4 changes, something that I honestly didn't expect them to do. They made a bit of a jibe about it, had a lot of fun, but they're looking into fixing it. They have a strike team working on optimization and crashes, so over time that's going to be fixed and ongoing. Also, on another subject, drop rates, of course, people are still unhappy with how much Masterworks drop at the moment. There seems to be two major things at play there. They are looking at inscriptions and drop rates and fixing that as they go along, but ultimately it boils down to GM2 and GM3 not being rewarding. So I guess that's one of the reasons why they don't want to drop the loot drop rate for GM1, because once people start going into GM2 and GM3 because it's much more balanced, loot will of course drop more frequently. Then it kind of ruins the whole economy as a whole. Like, it's the problem that loot right now doesn't drop an awful lot for GM1, Masterworks, and Legendary specifically, but the whole idea of this system is that GM2 and GM3 gives you more of a chance to drop loot, right? Which I think highlights how flawed of a system that is. GM2 and GM3 can't just increase the chance of getting rarer items, it needs to give you stronger items full stop than you would get in GM1. There needs to be a scaling system there, that the gear that you get in GM2 is stronger than the gear that you get in GM1, and GM3 is stronger than GM2, so on and so forth. Speaking of which, they fixed a lot with item scaling. One of the big issues that people run into when they're going for GM2 and GM3 content is, whilst their weapons were really strong and abilities, some of which were really strong, stuff like their ultimate, their melee damage, their combo damage, especially for rangers, wasn't scaling up to the levels. It would hit a threshold where your melee abilities would stop doing a lot of damage, and for GM2 and GM3, where obviously the health scaling goes up, those aspects of your play were a lot weaker. So they have changed scaling, for example, for Masterwork weapons now that are level 45 in game. They have been scaled up to like 63, I believe that they said, enabling a bit more of a spread. So melee should be a lot stronger, combos should be a lot stronger, ultimates as a whole should be stronger, which I think is a major change. I've been hanging out in the Algorithmic Freelancer Discord, which is full of number crunching theory crafters, and they've highlighted how bad melee and stuff can be. All of these areas also affect the ranger. You know, his combo passive wasn't doing a lot of damage, his melees, his ultimate. So ultimately, all of these make the ranger a lot stronger, but there are also some other buffs that I want to highlight in just a second. Also for GM1 and level 30, I believe, greens and whites will no longer drop in this next patch that's upcoming. They fixed minor stuff. I'll just gloss through them really quickly because they're not massive. They fixed a bug with the overheat delay for Colossus. When you would overheat as a Colossus, you would be unable to fly for a lot longer than other classes, weirdly enough. So they fixed that. They fixed stuff to do a quick play because that was a mess, so that should be a lot more consistent and actually give you the chance to physically play the game, which is of course very good for Anthem as a whole to be able to play the game, right? They fixed the text spamming when you're in free play. You know, it's like, oh, 2 hours until the server resets, 1 hour 55. They got rid of that, or it's less, you know, abrasive and less in your face. In terms of events and stats and stuff, they're working on it. They've put some changes in for resurrecting or reviving. Before, in situations where you couldn't respawn yourself, so not out in free play, in a stronghold, if you got downed, there was no way for you to self-resurrect. Now there will be in this upcoming patch. You will have to wait 30 seconds and then you can res yourself, much like Destiny. They're going to have some more changes to being downed and in that revival state. down the line, but nothing other than the changes that I've just highlighted until then. They fixed stuff such as wind wall blocking Rangers Ultimate, certain inscriptions such as Gunslinger's Mark not working, Mark of Ruin not working properly. You can now prime Titans, which you couldn't do before. The bugged ultimate bar, where it said that you had your ultimate but you didn't, has been fixed. And the combat team will also be releasing a guide on how inscriptions work. We actually did a video going over all of this, so I do hope that I'm correct. You can find a video in the description below if you want to check it out. In terms of the major stuff that was mentioned, they're going to fix PlayStation 4 as much as they can. Stat pages, to just sort of take a quick quote, they think that they should add a stat page. They know that it's important. They've been thinking about this longer than people have been complaining about it, so no doubt, you know, in the alpha or the beta that they've been wanting to do this. There's no timing on it, but they're working to get this out as soon as possible. They fixed the majority of sound bugs in the game, not fixed them all, so there is a chance that your sound could just completely cut out, but ultimately they fixed a good portion of them, so it should be less common. DLSS support should be coming relatively soon. There's a lot of soon that isn't in this patch, and I'm sorry if this is more of a confusing video, but there is a lot of minor stuff and it's hard to really dissect all of that whilst going over the major stuff too. And they're also going to increase all of the base damage to all Masterwork weapons, which is quite interesting considering the only good thing about Masterwork items are the weapons. The damage that weapons do in general are really, really strong. So I'm really surprised that they didn't change how abilities interact there, because abilities for the most part pale in comparison to running weapon builds, like, you know, like the Truth of Tarsus, detonating everything, doing 1.5 million damage to a boss and doing half of his health in there. It's a weird thing that they've gone for. I think Masterwork weapons feel quite good right now. They also spoke a little bit about the store. They've heard people's feedback there. They may want to add stuff to it, but of course you have all of the other changes, the other content coming in March, which seems to have been postponed. I thought some of it was going to be coming out next week, but the Stronghold caches and the Legendary missions are actually going to be out in a couple weeks more time, so that's kind of disappointing, kind of sad, but I'd rather have fixes to the game and quality of life stuff over new content right now. I know some of you may disagree with that, but I feel that the fact that people can't play the game properly yet is a bigger problem right now than the stuff to actually doing it. As I said, they mentioned loot drops. They're keeping a close eye on how rewarding it is or isn't, so they aren't just ignoring people's feedback there, so I'm sure they will eventually cave in and up the drop rate at least somewhat, or make it much more engaging to get loot. No doubt at this point there will also be a full list and breakdown of the live stream on Reddit, so if there is one there, then I will post it in the comments for you to read too. But that's everything that I wanted to go over in this sort of patch area of the video. Now I want to talk about some in-game stuff, a potential lead up to an event that could be quite exciting, with the Monument doing some even more weird stuff. Other than the stream, there is a little bit more news to cover in this video, so I'll do it now. The first is that the Monument is doing some other stuff too. We went over this before. People were going, oh my god, the Monument is moving, there's stuff happening in-game, Sombra ARG all over again. But when I spoke about it on the channel earlier this week, a lot of people said the Monument was moving since day one, the Monument being this massive Shaper relic. But as you're seeing in the gameplay, not only is it moving, which apparently it was doing all the time, but it's now sparking electricity. I saw InGame highlight this on Twitter, and apparently Ash Titans are also spawning out in the world, which is nothing too major, but it does show that there's something going on at the moment. This isn't part of some free play event. There's no notification when you go into game saying, hey, this is the Shaper Surge event, go out into free play to see the Monument all electric-y. And again, this might be something that's happened in the past, I am not 100% sure, but if there is a chance that this is completely new, I certainly did want to highlight it in this video. But I definitely do think there's going to be stuff happening around the Monument in the future. As I highlighted the last time I spoke about this, the next update is called Revolving World, so I do assume that there's going to be some rather interesting things happening in game. I just hope that they're a little bit more grand than some of the events that we've had in game so far. With that said, we haven't really spoken about it with events in the past, but maybe they're a little bit more dynamic than we may have been assuming. Let's say from the 3 events that we've seen so far, we have the Outlaw Outcast or whatever it's called, There Be Giants, which had the Ash Titans, and then Shaper Surge. These are events that we had last week, but they are also events going from the roadmap that we will see in the future. But the point I'm trying to make is maybe these events do become much more grand in scale as time goes on. There's nothing to say that the event that we had last week is going to be the exact same in the future. it might be part of a story. And it wouldn't surprise me for certain if some of these events do start off small, since the game has just come out. They just want to sort of test the waters, see if they can get the technology to work or whatever, work out what people like about the events and what they don't like. And then as time goes on, the There Be Titans event becomes much more impressive. There becomes an actual different type of Titan that's a lot harder to kill in free play. The Outlaw Outcast becomes overrun, like literally overrun outside with outcasts, and the Shaper Surge could just become a Shaper Storm. Maybe that's something that can happen over time instead of the event that we had last week being the same as the event that we have mid-April. You get me? So kind of wanted to sort of mention that, speculate a little bit on how these events over time could just increase in popularity, and I would like to see Bioware do that. But I am really curious to hear what you guys think about the event so far, and honestly, what event would you like to see? Like, create an event for me. Do it in the comments below. And next up, I kind of had to cover it. I was kind of hoping to make a full video on it in itself because it's so ridiculous. This time on I Can't Believe Anthem has done this. Apparently, the best weapon in the game is the level 1 Defender rifle that you start off with. And this is because there's weird problems with how weapons scale in the game, especially that level 1 Defender. Yeet Lord Supreme put on a Reddit saying that he tested out the level 1 Defender rifle and compared it to his Round the Blaze, which I don't have, so I can't compare those, and there was also a few other components that were in use that I don't quite have yet. In short, they compared a Ranger build to a decent weapon damage, but wielding the Defender rifle, the level 1 one, and then the level 45 Masterwork Roundless Blaze. Comparing the damage, Roundless Blaze would kill a target in 6 bullets on GM1, but the level 1 rifle, the rifle that you start off the game with, killed the target in 4 bullets. Again, I can't show an example, but Takeshi Curry made a GIF showing the comparison as you seen on screen. First up, you have the Roundless Blaze, or just any form of weapon doing this damage, and then comparing it to the level 1 rifle. Yeah, that's not good. Bioware have already responded on it, saying we'll need to investigate their scaling systems as supposed to allow low-level players to level with high-level players to be effective against high-level enemies. This is not intended, something ain't right there. Somebody rightly highlighted that nobody should be trying to level up in GM. They should be able to. I think people are even being banned if you have a level 5 being grouped up with a level 30, and the level 30 puts the level 5 into GM content, because that breaks the game somehow. But in any case, maybe the weapon wasn't designed to be in there, but the scaling just doesn't work to the point that the best weapon in the game is the weapon that you start with, which is ridiculous. I don't understand how this keeps happening, but with any luck, this next big patch that they've spoken about today highlights issues like this. Hopefully it can be hotfixed as soon as possible. The only saving grace right now, it feels, is that Bioware have been very responsive on trying to fix stuff. Maybe not as responsive vocally about, hey yes, we're trying to fix this, but to be honest, that is all that they can say at this point. I know that Anthem's had a really rough time, but have faith in the developers, the ones that are trying to right the ship. They know the shit show that they're currently in, and they're trying to quickly put the game into a good position as soon as they can. Call me an idiot, but I do have faith in the developers, and I do think that Anthem at some point will be able to turn this all around, but it just seems to be problem upon problem. This game really needed a closed beta. And I think I'm going to say that in every video from now on. This game desperately needed some closed and open beta, not a demo. Not at all. This game really needed some more testing. But that's everything that I wanted to go over today. Some pretty big stuff that we learned about. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We'll do some on these videos as it comes out, but I also want to start making build videos, some of which are going to be quite good. Like genuinely how to progress in the game kind of good. But when scaling's a little bit iffy, we may hold on to those for a little bit longer. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.